Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Auto Accident Attorneys Podcast. I'm your host, Attorney Ali. The podcast, as always, is sponsored by the Auto Accident Attorneys Group. We take care of you. On today's episode, I'm so excited to have colleagues and personal friends of mine. I've got who I like to lovingly refer to as Professor Arauz. I've got Alvaro Arauz of the 3A law firm
Law management.
Company. Welcome, Alvaro.
Thank you for having me.
I've got Miss Manal, like Chanel, Caruso of Chehimi Law. Criminal defense attorney, fantastic attorney, even better friend. Manal, thank you so much for coming today.
So nice. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I love seeing your beautiful faces, and you guys are very close. So I'm so happy that you are both on the same episode. I feel like the conversation is going to naturally flow, and Alvaro can essentially probably take over my job.
Right?
Yeah. No, she's like a little sister.
Yeah.
Right? You might be like a stepbrother. She's more like little sister.
I have a bigger place in your heart.
Yeah.
But I think Allie still has a good place in your heart too.
I love that. Thank you. Let's start to just sort of fall into this. I know that you're coming off of an evening with fellow attorneys and colleagues from Johnny's Hideaway.
Yeah.
Let's slowly ease into this, and you tell us about yourself.
Yeah, don't talk too fast. My synapses aren't firing quite quick enough. I always say I'm just a long-haired hippie from San Francisco, and dropped out of med school to be a writer, and ended up working with lawyers, which I never thought, and just created this company. It's in 47 states and 18 countries, and it's 100% referral, so it's just crazy that I'm like, I just made this up, but by the time I'm done talking, you'll understand.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that about you.
Yeah.
And
so
you are also a natural connector.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I didn't realize the power and the value of having a diverse network, right? Not only because you might need that person or somebody that they know, right? Or anybody out there might need them, right? But I realized the general counsel for GE, like the appliances, out of Michigan, was going to go out on her own and was referred to me by a DC client. And she did employment, and she said, why should I hire you? And I go, well, I do this. And she's like, I'm number one in the world in that. I'm like, well, I do, I can help with this. I can help, all marketing things. And then by the time I get to like number 6, I'm like, well, I know people. She goes, that's exactly why I'm hiring you. I want you to connect me. And so that opened up a whole, like the Lawyers Dinner Club, it's one of these things where I bring the right personalities who can help one another, but then also help their clients.
Right.
So it's been fun.
And I think that's such an important skill set outside of, we're sitting with attorneys, and you're in the legal industry, but it's such an important thing just in life in general.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I said, like, everyone assumes I'm an attorney, but I joke, I'm like, I just play one on TV. I mean, but I'm a normal person, and I think you can apply this in any aspect of your life. You don't have to be a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. You can just be you, but know how to connect the dots and the people.
I'm Persian. We'll get into that background and compare and contrast with Manel. Persian parents are pretty strict, and especially on my younger sister. So she was the girl growing up, and my mom used to always tell her, like, stop going out so much. Stay home. I don't want you to go out. And I remember, I'm 10 years older than Holly, and I remember telling my mom, I'm like, hey, that's the worst advice. I had just graduated college. I was like, that's the worst advice. Don't tell her to stop going out. She should go out. What she should stop doing is going out with the same group of people every single day.
Yeah.
Go expand your network.
Correct. And that's what people do. They're like, I want to meet new people, but they end up crowding with the same
Right.
group, just like you said.
Yeah.
So, no, it's just don't be afraid to get out there and be
Well,
yourself.
And I think one thing that you are really good at, Alvaro, is it's not just about the quantity of the connections, it's also the quality. And I think that's just obviously, especially in a business standpoint, is just as important. Because yeah, you can connect me with anybody that I might need, but it's
I
the
did.
quality referral,
I
which you
did.
did, but
Like,
it's also the quality referral.
yeah.
And that's what's important too. And I think you professionally and personally achieve that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great job, Alvaro. I hope that made you feel better.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's just I got to the point where I used to care what other people think, and talk about your parents. So my parents were in medicine, right? So that's how I was but I've left and super strict. My brother and sister are professional athletes. I'm not clearly. I'm built like a 13-year-old boy, but I'm deceptively athletic. Um, and so I went to this all-boy, super high-end school, got shipped to Paris to get a Sorbonne, but I was a club kid in Tampa, so I hated Paris. So I came back, and I was an academic scholar, so I had a scholarship. So I signed up for all these classes, calc, physics, philosophy, and the counselor's like, don't do this, don't do this. And I was like, shut up. I went to Jesuit, I'm fine. So you can't take that caseload and go clubbing 6 nights a week. So I got a 0.7.
Nice.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
0.7, right? I lost my scholarship. I got put on probation, and my parents shipped me to Brazil to go to med school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But that's what has given us what Alvaro is today.
Yeah.
I want to come back to Brazil, but before we get too far down that road, I want to provide Manel an opportunity to introduce herself and
Thanks.
let's
She's
hear.
awesome.
Oh, you're sweet. Okay, so I'm Manal Caruso. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I have my own firm, Chehimi Law. I started it in 2017. I've been practicing since 2012. I was managing partner at a firm for a few years before I went off on my own. And I love it. I do. I genuinely do. Professionally, I can't imagine doing anything else than being a criminal defense lawyer and having my own firm. I don't think I would love it as much if I wasn't on my own. Personally, I'm a mom. I have 2 beautiful boys who are just my world, and they drive me crazy, and I love them so much. Yeah, so that's
You're a boy mom.
Yeah,
I'm a
boy.
girl dad.
Yeah.
So we have the dynamics.
Do you think you were always supposed to be a girl dad? Because I know for sure I was supposed to be a boy mom.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you asked that because I never thought about being married ever since I was a kid. I never imagined a
Yeah.
wedding or having a wife, but I always imagined being a dad.
Yeah.
As a boy, I always imagined being a dad to boys. And when my first daughter during the ultrasound for the first pregnancy, when it turned out that it was female, I went through a minor depressive episode. And that's when the first grays showed up. Now I look at it and I think that I was meant to be a girl dad because it opened up things about myself that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Had I been a boy dad, I would have loved my life. I would have been moving forward, but I wouldn't know the things that I know now because I would have been shut off.
Makes you more sensitive and aware.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. There's a saying, and I'm going to totally butcher it, but I think I'll get the gist of it, where it's like, God gives you firstborn as a boy, gives you a boy as your firstborn, or a boy as your child, to teach you the love that you never had.
Oh, wow.
And there's some other one for girl dads, which I'm sorry I didn't really pay attention to, but I'll find it and I'll share it with you.
I think the moment you have a kid, right, and people just don't understand. Like you can't explain it in a way like, oh, I have a dog, and it's like you have no idea.
Yeah.
The minute you have that first child or any child, you completely lost your ego, because before that moment, everything was decided in your life based on what you want.
Sure.
Once you have a kid, out the window.
Yeah.
You've like the concept of time, like all those things. So we have 3 kids. We have boy, and I thought we were done. And she's like, let's go for 3. I go, why do you want 3 boys? She goes, because it might be a girl.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, I don't care either way. If it's a boy, it's a boy. So it ended up being a girl. Right. So we've got 2 boys and a girl, which is our same dynamic. You know, I have an older brother and a younger sister. And I had met her like in between meetings for the ultrasound. And by the time I got home, there were 2 tables of just mounds of pink everywhere. Right. But I mean, siblings, they're the longest relationship you'll ever have in your life.
That's
right.
true.
And they'll always be with you. And to see them develop, like I can see my influence and Elizabeth's influence, but they have their own little personalities. And
Yeah.
so, and to see that, you know, as they grow up, it's just, they're the funnest toys.
Yeah, they are. They're oh gosh, it changes your world for
It's my
sure.
favorite thing to do.
And I was very similar to you, Allie. I never, marriage was never on my radar. I mean, and being a Middle Eastern girl, like it's different, but I never even cared for it. I always wanted to be a mom. And in fact, I was on that journey, and then COVID shut me down. And then I met my husband, which again is a whole other podcast episode. Everything that transpired with my husband, who very suddenly passed away.
On my birthday.
On Alvaro's birthday. He reminds me of that every year. You know, it's my birthday. He hates it.
I hate
I'm
But
that.
I
sorry
tell
for
him-
you, Alvaro.
I know. I'm sorry for you, Alvaro.
That came out.
I know, it came out perfect. It came out perfect for our relationship. But yeah, so it's just, I know for sure though that I was supposed to be a boy mom, because I don't have that. I have 3 brothers, and I was raised like a boy. Like my dad made
That's
sure.
what makes her, I think that's why we connected, because she's not a normal,
Yeah.
you know.
But man,
Well,
boy,
she's normal.
I'm
She's
normal. I
normal,
know
but
I
she's
am.
not.
A normal girl.
I mean, like, tell
I
how
have
we
tough
met.
skin. So this is how Alvaro and I met. I graduated in 2012 and sat for the bar. And then, you're sitting there for 3 months. Like, what do I do with my life until the bar results come out? And I was like, well, I need money. I need to start working. And I started interviewing. And Alvaro, I had no idea. I thought he was a lawyer. I replied, I think it was like a Craigslist ad or something. And it was at a law firm. It was a criminal defense firm.
It is Craig Jacobs
Yes.
estate.
No, it was King and Kings.
Jacobs King.
Jacob.
So Scott did criminal.
And that
Craig
was
did
it.
Estate.
Yes. And so I went and I interviewed, and Alvaro was conducting the interview, and he kind of introduced himself, kind of not. And it was like 20 minutes in, he goes, I really like you. I really like you a lot, but I don't like you for this job. I'm not going to offer you this job. I was like,
Wow.
okay. And then he was like, but let me tell you what I do. And then he told me what he did, and that he's a law firm consultant, and he helps lawyers basically build and grow their firms and connects people.
And yeah, so
And that's what happened. He connected me with Don Turner, whose reputation preceded him. May he rest in peace. He passed away also in 2023. But so he connected me with Don, and then literally a week later, I was having lunch with him and Don, and then Don offered me a job, and I started working for Don before I passed the bar.
And became partner.
And I became partner within
That's
2
amazing.
years and I basically took over the firm from day one.
Yeah.
The day I got my bar results, it was a Friday. Monday morning, Judge Boterford in Cobb County Superior Court was swearing me in his chambers at like 7:30 in the morning. He swore me in, and then he literally goes, all right, counsel, you have a case on my calendar. Come on.
Amazing.
I was like, wait, don't I have to like get a number? And he's like, no, it's my courtroom. So Judge Boterford took me into a courtroom, and it was this massive calendar call. And we did have a case on calendar. And Don goes, all right, I'll see you back at the office, and literally dipped out.
And that's like, I love Bodford. He's a good guy.
Yes. I was like, is this even allowed? Like,
yeah.
So I did. He called the case, and it was a case that had already been negotiated for a null pros, which is a dismissal. And so I stood up and I said, I'm here on that case, and I believe the state has a motion. And the prosecutor said, yeah, Judge, we're going to null pros, blah, blah, blah. And Judge Botifer goes, now, Miss Chehimi, tell the court how long you've been practicing. And I literally looked at my watch. I go, oh, like 45 minutes? And he goes, 45 minutes and you've got your first dismissal. I think you're off to a good start. And I was so sweet and so memorable, and I'll cherish that memory forever, and the way he handled it. Because clearly, clearly I should not legally have been practicing law, because I think I needed to be like filed. But it's his courtroom. And that's why he's like, it's my
I love
courtroom.
that.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
it's a good
That's a
story.
great anecdote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since you said null pros, and most of our listeners are consumers,
Yeah.
and my mom hates every time I mention her because she thinks I'm making fun of her, but
Oh, Mama June.
I love you, Mom. Thank you for listening.
I love you too.
We love you too, Mama.
So they're consumers. So
Mhm.
null pros,
Yeah.
Latin.
Yeah, for we will not prosecute, or we will not. Yeah. And so it's basically a fancy way to say your case is dismissed.
And so if somebody is facing criminal charges,
Yeah.
when they get that, that's a
win.
That's a
You get that and you run as fast as you can out of the courtroom without committing any more crimes. But no, a null pros is obviously magic. It's the equivalent to a not guilty verdict without having to go through the not guilty process, ideally.
One of the things I like about her is her self-confidence, and I think for Botifer to have done that and to have gotten that dismissal just like cemented,
yeah.
because she was just naturally self-confident. Like, that's one of the things I liked about her. I still like about her. It's the fact that she went out on a hope. Like, her first swing was a home run.
Yeah.
Like, then it's like, all right, let's go.
That's
Yeah.
starting. So
Yeah.
It was poetic. It was really cool. And yeah, I mean, because
So that was 12?
2012. That was October 31st. It was Halloween.
Wow.
Yeah, because bar results came out that Friday. So it was like that following Monday or something.
So almost 13 years, huh?
Yeah.
spooky dismissal.
Yeah.
A spooky dismissal. But yeah, so.
In practical terms, on a null pros,
Yeah.
if somebody is looking for a job and they have to fill out an employment application, what are the ramifications of a null pros? What do you have to report and what do you not?
Sure. So it depends on how the question is asked, right? So if someone's like, if the question is, have you ever been arrested? Well, I mean, yes. Even if your case is ultimately dismissed via null pros or dismissed via another operation of law, you were arrested and you were fingerprinted, and that's always going to be there for law enforcement purposes. It's never fully expunged or restricted. So my thing is always be truthful. That's going to be my advice in those situations, because ultimately you can further explain. Generally with job applications, they give you that opportunity of saying, hey, if the answer to this is yes, please further explain here. And at that point, you can then answer and say. Now, there's other operations of law.
Can I
Go
just
ahead.
a couple questions? Because I tell my kids this, it pays to be precise with your question.
Yeah.
If you do answer yes,
Mhm.
like, is it best to keep it very short?
Yeah. Depending on the employer and the question, what you think they're going to want to see. Now, if it's a sales job and it's your first time out of college and it's like a competitive field and you're dealing with like a recruiter or someone in HR, I think it's better to be a little bit more forthcoming and say, hey, this was a bogus issue, something crazy, and ultimately it was dismissed because it should have been. But yeah, unfortunately, I was arrested and did get us to this point, but this has nothing to do with my life now or even then, and this is the person I am. If it's something else, I mean, and it might not even come up. A lot of times if it is restricted now, the law changed, I want to say in 2015, the law changed with record restriction that allows things to be just automatically done in the court system. And so if it doesn't come up, it doesn't come up. And just real quick, while it's on my mind, an arrest is not a conviction, right?
Correct.
So if the question is, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And you haven't, then you can truthfully say no.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But
that,
once a mugshot's out there,
Yeah, I mean, it's
But so that's a null process, right? I've had
Prosequi?
no prosecqua.
Qua?
Quai.
P-
No pros.
P-R-O.
That's why we shortened it because we don't know how to say it. EQUI. So we just say no pros. We don't deal with the rest of the letters.
so I've had a couple friends ask me, "Hey, I need a lawyer because I have this record or I have this null pro."
Mm-hmm.
So you've got this on here. When would you want? It's called an expungement.
Yeah. It is an expungement, but really what it's referred to now is a record restriction.
I'm not a lawyer. I just went on TV.
You're a consumer today. So basically, depending on the operation of the element that got us to that result, your record will either be automatically restricted or you have to go through certain steps to get it restricted.
Who should get an expungement?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
Isn't that the best lawyer answer ever? It depends because
The only
and the
lawyer
only
answer.
I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say your case is just flat out dismissed because it truly was bogus and that you had nothing to do. Like you never should have been arrested. Like it was wild.
But you still have a mugshot.
Right. You can go through channels to get that restricted removed off your record. But again, if I'm interviewing for like a big company and I really want that job, I'm not going to sit there and like gamble and be like, well, I'm just not going to tell them about this because it was bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to be forthcoming and say that that's me and be like, listen, I was arrested. It was dismissed. It was technically restricted, but there's always ways that it can potentially be found. So that's one scenario. Another scenario is in the instance of like a pretrial diversion program. So, for example, we see this a lot in cases of like theft by shoplifting or misdemeanor marijuana, sometimes felony, or like family violence battery cases. For example, in Fulton County, where I practice a lot, a first-time offender, Fulton County, simple battery, family violence. Husband and wife get into a dispute. Some hands are laid on each other. It's like a one-time incident. I mean, it happens. Okay. It's not right, but it happens. Husband or wife get arrested. A lot of times, depending on the allegations and their record, in exchange for them completing a 24-week family violence intervention program and some community service and paying like a fee, the solicitor's office will offer them a diversion program. And it's a great avenue for first-time offenders. It's a great resolution for these types of cases. And it's not a guarantee. You're not guaranteed to get it. But a lot of times that's a win for us. And so it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's complete it. And the end result is a dismissal, a null pros, and the record restriction. So the client can truthfully say, I was never convicted of this. You don't plead to anything. You're not. So it's a safety net. It's a fail safe for them. So that is supposed to be an immediate record restriction. Once the dismissal, the null process entered into by the clerk's office, that's transmitted to the GBI, which is the Georgia Bureau of Information. And that is supposed to be what restricts it from your record. Again, law enforcement and certain security checks and certain clearances will always see that. There's no way to officially, effectively 1,000,000% remove it.
It depends if you're connected, though.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Did I
Do you
ever
know
tell that?
Donald? Because I could use a connect to Donald.
I have this story about that one time I never actually got arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I listen to music and I need alone time sometimes because I'm around a lot of people. And I'm driving and the office is right outside of South Carolina. So it's like a 2-hour drive. I'm like, I'll do it, right? So, and this was years ago. And so I had weed in my car, but I put it in my glove box. And I'm like, well, after this meeting, after I'm done working, I'll smoke a bowl, right? So I'm driving down this highway. It's a 2-lane highway, bunch of like semi trucks. Is it 2 lanes? One way each way, maybe?
Yeah.
And I'm almost there. It's like 7:30 in the morning. And I'm going like 65. And through this blind like turn, these 2 teenagers blow through the stop sign. And I'm going like 65. So I couldn't even say, oh shit, it was just like, what? And then bam, right?
Wow.
Full speed. Spun
They
around.
hit you or you hit them?
I hit them
You had
because they blew through
T-bone them.
I T-boned
Okay.
broke the kid's leg,
Oh my
one
God.
guy's arm, right? Spun around, like, right? And so, knowing lawyers, I was like, right? And I kept looking for my car keys so that I could unlock the glove box, right? And get rid of the. And it was like, it was just like a nug. It's not like I was rolling with pounds. Like, I wasn't that.
You weren't trafficking.
Yeah, correct. Right. And
Personal use is what we would say in legal defense. That's just personal use.
yeah,
Thanks.
so I get in the ambulance. I can never find it, right? So I get in, and I've never been in a car wreck. I've never been like touched by cop. Like, so I was just like, get in the ambulance. I get to the ambulance, like I have 4 herniated discs and stuff. So the cop comes in, super cool, also from California, right? And he's telling me, kind of what happened and everything. I'm like, how are the kids? And he starts to walk out, and he comes back in and he goes, oh, one more question.
Oh, no.
What was in that Tupperware box in your glove box? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, when we tow cars, we have to make inventory of what was in the car, right? What was that? I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, dude, it's totally cool. I do it too. It's just not technically legal right now. He goes, I know, dude. I'm from California. I know, but it's not technically. And I was like, it's not mine. He's like, well, who uses your car? I go, I valet all the time. I have no idea. Right. And I woke up early and I just left. Right. So he's just like slow baiting me. And
Yeah.
I'm so hurt. And like, I'm like, dude, it's mine. He's like, all right, I'm going to have to arrest you.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And I'm in like 2 hours away. I have no car. I'm in the hospital.
I hope the listeners paid attention to that line of questioning.
Yeah.
Dude, it's okay.
It's okay. He totally baited me. He
Yeah.
totally baited me.
Cops are not your friends when they're investigating a crime. They are in general, but not when they're
But
investigating a
Like
crime.
he just left. Like he was there for 20 minutes. He leaves it. He could, oh, one more.
Just a little bit.
Just tiny little bit. Like
question.
where? And here I am. Like, where in San Francisco did you like? What part of San Francisco?
Oh, you're from California too?
I want to be your friend.
Oh yeah. So he goes, but listen, man, I understand what's happening. It was on a Thursday. He's like, just come back Monday. I'm not going to do anything right now. Come back Monday. It'll be like a 4-hour process. We'll book you in. We'll fingerprint you. He explains what's going to happen. He's just, but just remember, it's how you go. Yeah. I'm like, okay, fine. Right. So I get out of the hospital. Who do I call immediately? My clients. Right. I knew she was busy.
Yeah.
So
Busy.
I called. I think you're in labor, probably.
Probably.
Or you weren't even licensed yet.
So.
That's why. So I call who I need to call, right? In terms of being connected, it's very important.
Do you want to say who you called or not?
Mike Hawkins.
Of course, I would call Mike Hawkins.
Mike
That's
Hawkins.
who I would call.
Okay, Mike Hawkins represented Coach Bud
Yeah.
when he got his DUI dismissed. That being said, he still got a mugshot, Coach Bud.
Yeah.
Right. But Coach Bud, who was coaching for Atlanta, used to work for the San Antonio Spurs, okay? And Mike Hawkins was the dean of the National College of DUI Defense. Like, this guy knows DUI. Like,
He is.
Jamal Anderson, like, you name it. So Bud calls the team lawyer for the Spurs who went to school with Mike Hawkins. And so Hawkins gets Bud, gets it, like, dismissed, right? But one of his cases was a vehicular homicide. A Georgia State patrolman.
Not Coach Bud's case. This is a different case.
but
Yeah.
that Mike handled, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a baseball coach for the Braves who wife was killed by a Georgia State patrolman who blew through right in a chase or whatever. And Mike Hopkins did the vehicular homicide case for Georgia State Patrol. So I called Mike. I go, Mike, I'm in trouble, right? He calls the head of Georgia State Patrol, who's his friend. And he goes, hey, I need a favor. Can you talk to... So the head of Georgia State calls the trooper and tells him the story. And he's like, I'm cool with it. If the prosecutor's cool with it, of course, Mike knows prosecutor. Prosecutor's like, totally fine. Not a problem. Got it. Like, so the one time I never got arrested is because of who you
It's
like.
connection.
It's connections,
Networking.
dude.
It's
And
important.
I make mistakes. Like, and trust me, guess who doesn't travel anymore?
Yeah.
I don't travel. Like, first of all, I'm glad I'm alive.
Those kids are alive.
Yeah, like I'm glad, it worked out the way but it teaches you stuff. But it's also important not to just stay in your little hole on your phone or a video game.
Get out there, network, be a good person.
Yeah.
You drove and learning lessons along the way too. I know you had a driver bring you here today.
About, around the same time, doing what I do, my clients have a lot of events. So I might have, on top of a full day, 3 events in one night. And I've got to do my round, just like speed dating. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Everything good? All right, let's grab lunch, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? But I could do that. And then a lot of times people come with me and like, hey, we're going to Johnny's. Who wants to go? Right? And knowing lawyers, there's usually alcohol. I kind of like it myself. And I just know not to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not getting in an accident. I'm not killing anybody. I'm not like leaving my kids. Like, I'm not doing that. So I would just, so I've had Irvin since my first, at least 12, 13 years. Like Thanksgiving, Halloween, like he takes me everywhere, you
Yeah.
know? And so last night I was out all day in meetings. I left my car in Buckhead because I knew I had all these events last night. And yeah, so he picked me up this morning, brought me here. He's waiting for me outside.
I love it. Even Irvin, even the driver, that's part of your network.
Yeah, Swervin' Irvin, that's what we call him.
I love that
Swervin'
name.
Irvin.
Yeah.
As a recap of the pragmatic advice, if the application question is about an arrest, that is, you're always truthful, but if it's an arrest, whether you're convicted or not, you're still arrested.
Right.
If they're asking if you've been convicted,
Yeah. And then if you haven't been convicted, then you say, no, I have not been convicted. And there's different ways to avoid a conviction even after arrest.
That's what O.J. Simpson said.
Yeah. I didn't do it. But no, so like, the pretrial diversion scenario with the family violence case is one. Then there's also Georgia's First Offender Act, which is another way to avoid a conviction. And that would be a similar situation where you, with that case though, in that situation, if you plead under the Georgia Offenders Act, you would say, I'm pleading guilty, and a sentence would be imposed. But what happens is the judge doesn't sign that sentence and he holds it. It's literally, they hold your sentence, and for the probated amount of time, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, whatever. And then if you successfully complete the terms of that probated sentence, that sentence is ripped up and shredded, and a discharge and acquittal is submitted to the GBI, again, to restrict your record, to show that you were not convicted. So in certain cases, like drug possession or even, assaults or serious felonies, if you are eligible for the Georgia First Offender, I mean, it's a great alternative to potentially ruining someone's life for a one-time mistake or, thing that is not of their nature. Most of my clients are normal people. I mean,
Right.
they're run-of-the-mill people who made a bad decision one time or, had a bad day. It's not like they're
Or hanging out.
or hanging out with the wrong people, wrong time.
It might not be the wrong person, right? Like, so one thing I've learned is, and this is from my family lawyers and my criminal lawyers, is let's say you're going through a divorce. Obviously, you guys are yelling and fighting and
Right.
liking each other, right? When emotions are high,
Yeah.
right, people turn into different, like a next level, right? And one phone call, I'm so mad at you. I'm so mad at you. One phone call to 911,
Right.
right? here comes domestic violence, here
Yeah.
Terroristic threats,
terrorists, like
assault.
all this
Right.
stuff, right?
It spirals out of control.
It
Yeah.
spirals, and it could be on even a bullshit phone call,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So also knowing how easy it is, and then the consequences of what might, because even once you have a mugshot, you have a mugshot,
Yeah.
right? So if you're going through a divorce, or if you're with, I mean, somebody who at that moment in time,
Sure.
Is going to agitate you and
or
lose control.
or they're going to lose control, or you're
Yeah.
going to remove yourself from the
Yeah.
situation, because they can get you in trouble for the rest of your life.
The best legal advice I'd give people, especially this pertains mostly, I think, for DUIs, and this is for all consumers, everybody. If you're committing a crime, you cannot commit more than one crime at the same time, right?
Explain that.
Yeah.
For example, let's
yeah,
talk
what is
about
that?
DUIs. It's not illegal to drink and drive. It's illegal to drink and drive with your BAC being above a .08 if you're over 21. Okay.
Oh, fits it.
But man, if you're going to drink and drive, even if it's 1 beer or 10 beers, first of all, don't. That's my number one piece of advice. Don't do it. If we're already there and you're doing it, you cannot commit another crime while in the process of committing a current crime of drinking and driving. That means your seatbelt is on, your turn signals are being used, you're making complete stops at every stop sign,
Your tags.
you're maintaining your lane,
What,
your tags are in order,
So
your
that-
brake lights are in order.
correct. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you
Yeah.
don't know, like, if your headlight
yeah.
is out
Yeah.
or a tail. Like, what are some of the top tags expired?
Right.
Pull you. They're
Yeah.
looking for
The hands-free, just holding
your
phone.
phone.
I've had more of those DUI-related cases in the last 2 years than I've had in my whole career as being the reasonable articulable suspicion for the stop, is that, oh, they were on their phone, or they're holding their phone because they're looking on GPS or something.
Right.
I mean, I've had more of those cases where
I've been
that's
meaning to
evasive.
change my brake light.
They're not pulling them over because they suspect them of drunk driving. They're pulling them over for something completely different. And then they typically ask,
Right.
Have you had
Well,
anything?
and then it depends. They use
Sometimes.
They use that as a tool. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. If it's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon and you're driving down Alpharetta and there's a cop and he sees you on your phone, he may not likely pull you over.
Or a broken
if it's-
tail light.
But if it's at
2 a.m.
2 a.m. or
Yeah.
midnight, and you're on your phone for a split second to put it up on your hands-free device, you're not even supposed to do that while you're operating the vehicle. That's enough reasonable
Right.
articulable suspicion to pull you over, because he's like, oh, well, maybe it's late. She was drinking. And then
Another-
that goes into the DUI investigation.
Another piece of dad advice: don't be out on the road
Yeah.
at unreasonable hours.
Yeah.
That's what my parents
What
always
do my
say.
clients say? Nothing good happens. Nothing good happens after midnight.
Well, the advice is if you're, I mean, I'm older now. I don't want to be out after midnight.
Right.
But for my kids, when they listen, if it's going to be after midnight, definitely don't go in anyone else's car. Get the Uber. Have a driver.
Absolutely.
Don't
I
be
mean,
driving.
It's not worth it. The
It's
$20,
so
the
not worth
$30,
even
Right.
$100.
even $100.
Listen, the
it's not worth
DUI
it.
is a first lifetime DUI on average, I mean, minimum of $5,000. A minimum.
It's crazy.
And that's like for a cheap lawyer, and who's still a good lawyer, but their fees are less. I mean, after you add in all the mandatory conditions, you're going to have to do the bail, the time,
The classes.
the classes themselves, and then the lawyer's fees, and then the fines. Even if they get rid of the DUI, most jurisdictions in the state of Georgia, you get punished for a DUI. So a
You'd be paying
beautiful
$10,000 for
Right.
an $80 Uber ride.
A beautiful
Right.
resolution in DUIs is reckless driving, which is a traffic offense, and it falls off your record. It goes away. There's no license suspension. It's 4 points on your record unless you're able to plead nolo. But you get punished in the same way you would if you had just pled guilty to the DUI, in terms of the community service hours, the alcohol and drug evaluation, the risk reduction class, the MAD victim impact panel, the probation, and the fines and the fees. It's just
Again, I'm not a
worth it.
lawyer. Like, I'm just a normal literally a normal person. I mean, you guys are too, right? But
Well, I'm a
Sure.
superhero. I'm just saying.
heck, that also, it still baffles me that I do what I do, right? Like, that people come to me for advice, like lawyers come to me for advice, and how much I charge. I think it's crazy.
Whatever, you're cheap. You're affordable.
Yeah, right. But it's
It's
I
valuable.
they
Valuable.
come to me with questions, and lawyers are lawyers. I have to be right, right? But I'm a normal person. I always say lawyers have taught me so much about what to do, like what to avoid, how to be smart, things I don't even think about. Like change your brake light,
Yeah.
like little tiny
Make
things.
sure your lights are on. Like, that's another thing. I have automatic
That's how
lights.
Coach Bud got
Yeah,
busted.
I have automatic lights. My kids, as you know, they love to sit in the cars and just mess with and press buttons. And I let them because it buys me 10 minutes of like quiet time.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you the number of times my kids have turned my automatic lights off and I do not realize it immediately. And then it's like, whoa, wow, those,
But again, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, cops aren't gonna,
Right.
that's not a big deal. I mean, but you bet your butt right when the sun starts setting, it becomes a big deal.
A sad, and along the lines of, aside from the time, another sad truth of the universe is also the type of vehicle.
Yeah.
If you've got a brand new S500, you're less likely.
Depends where you are.
Right.
Like if you're in an area like Milton, Alpharetta, where everyone's driving nice, luxurious vehicles, that's just who we have to pull. That's who the cops have to deal with. But yeah,
you guys know Ryan Williams?
No.
No, the name doesn't sound familiar.
Is he an attorney?
He's an attorney.
I might know him. Oh, I do know him. I saw
Right,
that.
he's African American.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been pulled over, and he's smart, but he's real. He's been pulled over, I think, like 15 times
In all different types of vehicles.
because he has, has a successful practice. And so it might be this kind of car. They're normal cars. They're nothing. It's not like a Bugatti or got a Ferrari or anything. Like they're normal cars, but for 15 times, like he just posted last week, he had 4 cops descend on him for no reason, right? Like your tint, which was legal. Like he's never done anything, but he keeps getting pulled over by cops, right? And it sucks. But I'm glad that he posts about it because it's a real thing. Like you think you're just doing nothing, but chances are, like,
there was an attorney who used to do a lot of DUIs, and he used to joke around. He's retired now, but he used to joke around and tell me that, his office was in Atlanta in Buckhead, and he would wake up at like 4 a.m. sometimes and not be able to sleep. So he's like, I'm just gonna go head to the office. And this is when the Nighthawks were prevalent in Atlanta, which is the Georgia State Patrol like DUI division that they do the night scene.
They still do that?
There's still Nighthawks out there. It's not as big, I don't think. Anyways, so he said he would used to drive and just like coast a little bit out of the lane just to
On purpose?
just on purpose, just to see if he'd get pulled over because he was clearly sober. But I'm like, you got to go and mess with GSP right now. Don't do that.
Speaking about being pulled over as an inevitability, another thing. So Manal, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I started out in criminal defense.
Yeah, I forgot that you did that a little bit.
Yeah. It was out in California. Yeah. And
which is a whole different like world out there, I feel.
It is. That's what the
in the
cops told
justice
me.
system. Yeah.
That's why we get along.
One thing that dawned on me after doing a handful of cases before I switched over to personal injury was that I had never met anyone that had ever talked themselves out of a charge or an arrest in front of a cop.
Yeah.
In other words, people think that they can explain their way out of something because they don't want to get arrested. They think they feel they might be able to avoid the rest.
Right.
So I've gotten to the point where I tell my own family members, I'm like, shut your mouth.
Yes.
More truthfully, I actually say, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
And they're like, well, they'll arrest me. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got like down this rabbit hole of get cops and getting arrested and stuff. But one of the questions I get a lot, which let's say we make a mistake one night.
Yeah.
And you get pulled over and you just said, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's like, what do I say to a
Nothing.
cop?
I'll tell you, I know this. I have this
get this question
conversation.
so
I have
much.
this conversation all the time because I get people all the time asking me. So I do a lot of DUIs. DUIs are like my main focus. I pivoted my criminal defense practice. I'm not doing major felonies anymore. So I do a lot of DUIs. I've taught DUI seminars. Anyways, if you are being pulled over and the cop is asking you to step out of the vehicle, there is a very, 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 very good chance you're going to jail regardless. So if I were pulled over and the cop was asking me to step out of the vehicle and I had not had any alcohol or I was not under the influence of any alcohol at all.
Let's just say you are, though.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you both scenarios because honestly, my answer is the same.
Okay.
I will not step out of the vehicle unless you're arresting me. So I'm going to ask that. Yes, I'm going to say, officer, I want to respect your wishes. I want to cooperate. Are you asking me to step out of the vehicle because you are placing me under arrest? And if he says yes, sure, I'm going to jail. If he says no, I just want to ask you some questions. I'm sorry, officer, I am not comfortable stepping out of my vehicle unless you are placing me under arrest. I'm trying to cooperate, but I'm scared. You can ask me questions while I'm sitting here. My car is off. Here, you want to take my keys? Take my keys. And that's
I
it.
did not know that.
That's what I would do,
So
truthfully. And that's if I'm drinking or if I'm not drinking.
So
Because if an officer is pulling you over because your taillight is out, there's no need for you to get out of the car for him to further investigate you.
Right.
So
Right? Or if he's pulling me over because I'm speeding, okay, write me my ticket. I've had enough of those. I know how that goes. I've never had to be stepped out of the car because I was speeding. But if you're pulling me out of the car to ask me further questions, that means you are trying to investigate another crime.
Right.
I'm not getting out of the car.
I saw,
Respectfully.
And also the idea is it's not one thing I want to communicate to anyone listening. This advice, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a means of de-escalation, because if they say
Correct.
yes, we are. If you don't step out, then I'm going to arrest you. Then it's not a matter of arguing and trying to just accept
listen
that.
to it.
Accept
Take
it.
that L. Be like, okay,
Absolutely.
I'm arrested.
If they say to you, blow into this, I want to see if you're safe to drive, or come out and do these, I want to check your eyes and make sure you're safe to drive. No, respectfully, no. I'm cooperating with you. You pulled me over for speeding or failing to maintain my lane. Your investigation of that has ended at the time you approach my window.
And if he says you're not going to blow, I'm going to arrest you.
You're going to jail regardless. And
Going to
plus,
jail.
just so another question I get common is people are like, well, I didn't blow, or I didn't give them a test and they still arrested me or something. So the state administered test of your breath, the actual breathalyzer test, that's not the one they do on the side of the road. That's called a portable breath test or an Alka sensor. That is just another test in their battery of field sobriety tests. The actual state test, the actual breathalyzer that they use against you, they don't even get that until after you're already arrested. So they can't ask for that until you're already been placed under arrest and charged and taken to the station. So at that point, you're cooked already.
And the one at the station, can you refuse the one at the station as well?
So you can refuse all of the tests. Now, there are consequences to your driver's license if you refuse the breathalyzer test or a blood test. So after you've been arrested, after you're in handcuffs in the back of the car or whatever, you're clearly under arrest, that is the only time legally the officer can ask for a breath test or a blood test. And he reads to you from a green little card. It's called the Georgia Implied Consent Notice. And Georgia law requires you to submit to a test of your breath, blood, urine, blah, blah, blah. And then do you agree to submit to a test of your breath, which is the most common? And if you don't, your license may be suspended for 1 year. That's a hard suspension.
That implied consent comes in when people are applying for a driver's license. Is that when the consent is implied?
Like when you agree to that? Yes, exactly. So it's not a right to drive. It's a privilege to drive. It's a privilege to have a driver's license. And part of your agreement with DDS, Department of Driver Services, when you're getting your license is, hey, all right, I get my license, and you tell them if I'm ever investigated for DUI and the officer reads this, I'm going to give them a test.
Right.
And if I don't,
My license just expired on my birthday.
You have the
I have to go to the.
got to go to DMV.
you have the right to travel freely. You do not have the right to have a state issued driver's license.
Correct.
Correct. So let me say one thing, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I can't tell you how much I appreciate cops. There's bad apples everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
me too.
Like,
Yeah.
I love cops.
Ab-
We live in Cobb County.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Cobb County Police if something even small happens, I cannot tell you, like a whole SWAT
Yeah.
They are very
is there
blessed.
in 10
Yeah.
seconds to
Sure.
protect you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love cops. I know there's bad apples because I mentioned the Rhino.
They're doing their job,
Right.
for the most part.
A lot like defense attorneys.
Well, like defense
Yeah.
attorneys
On my
or
end.
PI attorneys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always talking about the defense attorneys on the PI
On the
side.
PI side
Yeah.
too.
Like they're not
Yeah.
bad people, but
They're just doing their job, right? So I follow this lawyer thing on social, and I saw this, and I was like, "Is this actually possible?" So this guy, this older man, gets pulled over at a DUI checkpoint, right, and the cops come up to him. He barely cracks his window, like this much, and this is when you were saying you don't have to get out of the car. They're like, and he puts his license right
Mhm.
there on the window, and he goes, "My attorney told me not to answer any questions." They're like, "Have you been drinking?" "My attorney told me not to answer any questions." "What do you need?" "Your driver's license. It's right here." "Can you roll your window down?" "You can see it right here."
yeah.
Right? Like, they kept asking him questions, and he was just like, "Here's this. Here's."
Yeah.
He barely cracked his window.
Yeah.
I can still hear you. "I can't hear you. Can you roll down your window? Can you get out of the like?" And they let him go. Like, and just
Yeah.
like he literally did. I was like, "Can you actually do that?"
You can. I mean, legally. So a lot of times, though, keep in mind you might get an obstruction charge on top of it. But I would argue that's
Listen,
not obstruction.
I
Like,
don't get into any
I would-
trouble.
I know. I'm talking in general, but yeah. I mean, depending on the cops, 99% of cops are amazing human beings. I'm the public defender in Alpharetta and Milton Municipal Court, and we have, and I mean, Cobb County, we have some of the best law enforcement in the state of Georgia. Like, we really do. We're very, very lucky, and they do an amazing job, and they do their jobs, and they do great work. At the end of the day, as a defense attorney, my job is to make sure that the state has proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt
Right.
and met every element. My job is not to get my clients off. My job is not to get you off or get the case dismissed against that you're found innocent. That is not my job. And I make that very clear with my clients. Like, my job is to really, truly investigate the evidence and make sure that they can prove every element of the crime and prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and that your constitutional rights are protected. And most of the time, we are able to mitigate and find a resolution that is what is best for my client. I never ever sell myself as like, no, we're going to get this dismissed. I have no idea what's going to happen on your case the first time I meet you. I have
Right.
no idea.
Or what you're going through in life.
Or what you're going through in life, or what's happening and what you need. What is the best resolution for you? Because an example this week, I had a client who had a DUI, and it was a very weak DUI case. And the prosecutor agreed, but she agreed to reduce it to reckless driving, which is a win. Or we would have to send it up to the state court. And my client was like, well, I feel like we can win this. And I'm like, we can. We probably can. But at what cost to you?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can take this plea and know what's exactly going to happen, and this is going to be done and over with. It'll be off your record, rather than sending it up to the state court and having to drag it out again. A, you're going to have to pay me more money. And B, it's like more time. And like, this is weighing very heavily on you. Like, this is something that you wake up and think about every day.
Yeah. It's a
And
decision they have to make.
it's a decision he has to make, right? But like, at what cost? So part of my job is to help my clients understand, like, no, this isn't a complete dismissal maybe, and it's not guilty completely, but ultimately, for your mental health and for your sanity and what's best for your life in 1 year from now, this truly might be the best decision at this time. Because if we were to send it up to state court, it would have dragged on for another year.
Right.
And then you would have had to, and then it would have started from scratch. And after kind of like explaining it and really helping him see, because to me, it makes no difference in my world per se. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to support my client, whatever they want to do. It's their case. I would have made more money, but
Yeah.
that's not why I do what I do. And so he rightfully, I said, if you were my brother, I would tell you as my brother, this is what you need to do now. I mean, this is what I recommend you do. And so that was the right resolution.
There were times when I was doing criminal defense, I had, again, being Persian, members of my family
Yeah.
that their knee-jerk reaction is like, you represent criminals.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you actually, criminal defense attorneys, they represent the United States Constitution,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
because you have the client,
Right.
but you're just making sure that all of their rights are
Are protected.
per-
And
right.
and what I do specifically, and I don't take on a lot of cases. I keep my practice very like boutique because I want to be able to provide that customized defense.
Mhm.
Every client is different. Every single client is different. They can have the most similar case facts, the same exact officer, the case like the most similar case facts, but the people are completely different.
Mhm.
And you cannot forget that. Because
Yeah.
what is best for one client may not be what's best for the other and vice versa. So you really got to make sure and dictate the resolutions and cases, and not only just the resolution, but how the case is handled. I have clients that I literally need to like handhold through everything. And that's okay because I can usually tell after the first meeting. But then I have clients who are like, oh, I don't want to hear anything from you. You just tell me where to send the money. Like
Yeah.
they just don't care.
I mean, I tell my kids, like, everyone's human. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has issues. Everyone's family law taught me everyone's crazy, right? Different levels of crazy. And I'm like, if we can just prevent 80%, I know things will happen,
Yeah.
right? In your control, you might be going through something, right? And you might make a mistake, but no kind of like, what can we do to prevent the mistakes? Get an Uber, or don't think you can drive, or like,
Don't talk.
don't talk. Yeah,
Their
Don't
officer
talk.
is
Be
telling you
polite.
they're cool.
yeah,
They understand
Yeah.
California. Don't give it to them.
yeah. And I made that mistake. Like, I'm not, again, I just play lawyer on TV.
99% of people do
Uh-huh.
because it's natural. And
It's natural. You're right.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
if we could just know your rights,
right.
and I'm not saying know how to trick the system. I'm saying just know what your rights are. Try to avoid the situation to begin with. If you're going to be in that situation, how can we handle it best?
You just said we're not trying to trick the system. I think that I'm really happy you said that because a lot of people think that way. They're like, oh, well, you're helping. No. We're not helping criminals get away with anything. There are constitutionally protected rights
Yes.
that you're afforded. If anything,
But people don't know. I don't know. Like, I get, oh, you're from California? Oh, cool. You smoke too?
Let's be
Cool.
friends.
Hey, let's hang out.
one of the most interesting things that we've been having a lot of every year, politically, it gets worse. The public discourse gets worse. We hate each other more. The country gets a lot of flack. And although we have a lot of room for improvement, I urge people to spend one day in criminal court with public defense attorneys,
Yeah.
not privately retained counsel as yourself, where people have means. Those of us that don't have means to a defense, this country still provides
Yeah.
defense, and that is not common
No.
across the globe. It's one of those things that I really feel like sets us apart. I'm getting goosebumps. Like I feel patriotic about that. I
love
really
that.
do.
No, it is. It's very true. I mean, we have, and we're really lucky. Like, so like Fulton County has a built-in public defender's office, and they are some of the best criminal defense attorneys. I mean, when I get a client who calls me, like a mom called me on behalf of her son, and she's like, well, he's got the public defender. And I'm like, well, which county? And she says, Fulton County. I'm saying, ma'am, listen, if you guys are truly indigent, like that's going to be your best resource. They are
Yeah.
some of the strongest and best defense attorneys in the
Indigent?
state. The public defender. Oh, indigent. Indigent is people who don't have the funds, who would qualify, who are can't afford to hire a private attorney.
Got it.
And thank you. And they are, they really are. They're some of the best attorneys in the state. We have other counties nearby, like Cobb County and Forsyth County. They have an appointed list in Gwinnett
Mm.
County as well. So they don't have like a built-in public defender's office, but they have private defense attorneys who are on this list that people can apply and qualify for if they cannot afford to hire private counsel. So you're getting a private defense attorney who's going to be able to help you through the process and work through the system. So, we are, as citizens of this great state and country, we are afforded those rights that like you said, are not common anywhere else in the world. They're just not.
I'm sorry about that weird clip. I'm dressed in something completely different, but I did need to jump in and let you know that that is the first part of a two-part series because I had such an amazing time speaking with Alvaro and Manel that we completely lost track of time and it went over almost 3 hours. So what we've done is we've edited and condensed it into two separate parts. This was part one. I hope you got a lot out of it. This was about what to do mostly with law enforcement, how to handle traffic stops, uh, some consumer oriented information coming from some attorneys that hopefully you guys can use. Part two, if you tune in for next week, we get into, well, we get a little bit personal. We talk about some mental health issues, some of the exercises we've gone through, and just how everyone, regardless of age or occupation, what it is that we go through, some of the battles that everyone faces, and how best to handle that and support each other. As always, I'm doing this to help support all of you. You could support me by sharing this podcast and tuning in. And also, if you've got any advice, if there's anything that you'd like to hear about, if there's a topic I can discuss that would be of importance to you, or if you'd like to be a guest, if you think that you've got some wisdom or advice or information that you want to share with the world, we've got a platform ready for you. We'd love to have you on. Thank you for listening to today's episode. And for part two, make sure to tune in next week. Take care.